The crisp autumn air hung heavy with a silence that only a military funeral could command. Sergeant Miller, a man whose spine was as straight as the flagpoles he'd served under for 30 years, stood ramrod stiff in his dress blues, a silent sentinel. Today, however, something was off. The young honor guard, Private Jenkins, a fresh-faced kid barely out of basic, was visibly shaking. His grip on the ceremonial M14 rifle was tenuous, his eyes wide with a terror that had nothing to do with combat. Then it happened. A collective gasp rippled through the mourners as the rifle slipped from Jenkins' trembling fingers, clattering loudly on the polished concrete. A hush fell, thicker and more suffocating than before. Sergeant Miller's jaw tightened, a muscle twitching in his temple. This was a desecration, a disrespect to the fallen hero being laid to rest. But more than that, it was a profound embarrassment to the regiment. Jenkins, his face crimson, snatched up the rifle, his hands shaking even more violently. The honor guard captain, a stern-faced woman with eyes like chipped ice, shot Jenkins a look that could curdle milk. The ceremony continued, each moment an agonizing eternity. Then, during the rifle volley, Jenkins fumbled again. The rifle, a symbol of honor and duty, tumbled from his grasp once more, skittering across the ground. This time, the murmurs were louder, a tide of whispered indignation. Sergeant Miller, usually a rock, felt a tremor of frustration run through him. This was not the send-off their comrade deserved. The captain stepped forward, her voice a low, furious hiss, threatening Jenkins with disciplinary action. The young private looked utterly broken, his shoulders slumping under the weight of his own perceived failure. As the ceremony neared its end, the moment for the symbolic rifle spin arrived. This was a move of precision, a final, graceful flourish to honor the dead. Every eye was on Private Jenkins, who looked like a man walking to his own execution. He took a deep, shuddering breath, lifted the rifle, and then he froze. His hands were paralyzed, his courage evaporated. The captain, exasperated, stepped forward, ready to intervene, to pull him from the line. But then, an unexpected figure moved. An old veteran, his uniform faded, his back stooped with age, stepped out from the crowd. He walked with a slight limp, his movements deliberate, his eyes holding a depth of experience that silenced the murmurs. He approached Jenkins, a gentle hand on the young private's shoulder. "Son," he rasped, his voice surprisingly firm. "May I?" Jenkins, bewildered, simply nodded. The old veteran, whose name no one knew, took the rifle. His movements were slow at first, almost ponderous. Then, with a flicker of muscle memory, a lifetime of discipline, and a quiet grace that defied his years, he spun the heavy rifle. Not with two hands, not with a struggle, but with one finger. The rifle twirled, a blur of polished wood and steel, a silent ballet of respect and precision, before settling perfectly back into his grip. A collective gasp, this time of awe, swept through the crowd. The captain's jaw dropped. Sergeant Miller, who had seen it all, felt a lump form in his throat. The old veteran then handed the rifle back to Jenkins, a knowing smile on his wrinkled face. "It's about respect, son," he whispered. "And steady hands come with a steady heart." He squeezed Jenkins' shoulder, a gesture of quiet encouragement, before melting back into the crowd. Jenkins, his eyes wide with a newfound understanding, stood a little taller, his grip on the rifle now firm. The ceremony concluded, not with embarrassment, but with an unexpected surge of pride and renewed honor. The old veteran, a nameless hero, had not just spun a rifle. He had spun hope back into a young soldier's heart and reminded everyone present that true honor often comes from the most unexpected places. An old veteran, his face weathered, gracefully spins a ceremonial rifle with one finger. A young, nervous private drops a ceremonial rifle during a military funeral, his face filled with shame.